All right, this is recording 780-780, ListenNext 780. Again, you can find me at ChristinaStacia918.com. Okay, so you can type in Speaking to the CIA podcast by Christina Stacia also on Google. It's easy to find me. You can find me on YouTube. So, okay, so a couple of things here. Okay, so all right. Okay, so a couple of things here. So I want to bring up, you know how I've told you a million times and I've given you a million examples of Navy Gal 27, pure arrogance, pure American psychopath using ICE on artists and musicians. Okay, so you're going to want to see all code 3 a.m. And in this part of Decoded Ciphers, I'm decoding gene stalking of Hillary Clinton, okay? And I decode out a whole bunch of terrorism and everything else in her trying to frame Hillary Clinton. So Hillary Clinton had a commercial that was loosely modeled after 1984, and she didn't do it on purpose. Whoever made the commercial did it, and it was extremely angry. I decoded the heck out of everything. I decoded all of it. But anyway, when she was running for president, she said, "Who's going to take the phone call if your phone rings at 3 a.m.?" That's based off of Orson Welles' 1984. Okay. So anyway, now I find out, and I found this out like last week or the week before, Matchbox 20, I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember them. Matchbox 20 came out with a song called 3 a.m. Now, in the song, you can tell she ice raped Matchbox 20. She is singing, she's stealing what he's singing. He's singing about him and his girlfriend. But she's controlling his lyrics. And she's trying to make the song about her, but she's posing as me in the future. So it's like her rendition of who I become in the future, and I'm supposed to be dead, and she steals my identity and gets away with it. And she's just glorious, and she's white, and she's a Viking, and she's in the third. And so listening to the song is going to make you puke at what a psychopath Gene Roberts is. Now, here we are, present day, and I listen to the song, and I kid you not, on my wall, on my bedroom wall, to my left is a picture of Arches National Park in Utah. It's a picture of Rainbow Bridge, a clock, and to the right of that is a world map, and to the right of that is my bedroom door. So go listen to the song. Now, you know by listening to me on my podcast, you know present day, I would change some of the lyrics on that if I were to sing it, if I were to be the one singing it, such as the moon doesn't hang quite as high as it used to. I know God is real because I decoded in the Holy Bible around the moon. I decoded a whole page on it. And I know God is real because the moon exists. Like, I was dumbfounded. I was like, oh my gosh. I was literally dumbfounded. And there's a couple of times in decoding, it's just like, there's no way to say that God isn't real. So I would reverse that lyric. And also, if it's all going to end, then it might as well be my fault. Cut the end off there. And you have to remember, Jean is the leader of Charles Manson. She wants to sacrifice me. She planned to sacrifice me before I was born. So I am the epitome enemy. Everything is all my fault. And she is Queen freaking Milton Norse. So she's acting like she's the Washington Madam, which she really is a Washington Madam. And she wants everybody to believe that she's just ushering people in to a place underground where they're living a fantasy retirement life of anything they've ever wanted, which she's tried to pull that stunt for like 2 or 3 years now. I've got a whole podcast on it. When that is not the case, that is not what's going on at all. And for you to trust that is insane. If somebody fed you a line like that. Anyway, but if you want all the details, you can go through my podcast. Anyway, so also, it really is her doing. She has an apocalyptic plan of terrorism. I have decoded it. I have turned her in. Why do you think she's so desperate to steal my identity? To steal my name? To steal all the ciphers that I decode? They're her ciphers. I decode them. She doesn't want her ciphers. She wants my decode because she's trying to steal my identity. Her using her own ciphers is what? Admitting to be the perp. She wants to pretend to be me decoding. Some of the original ciphers you can't get to anyway. I know she knows where they're at, obviously, but you can't get to anyway. But I was told, I was told when I lived in Texas that the United States government doesn't want the original ciphers, that they want my decode. Not because they're trying to help Jean with handshaky, because they're not going to reward the freaking perp. And they're not trying to reward me either. This is a hostage crisis. She is holding people hostage. She's got people under threat. Which all the ciphers would be found and located in the end anyway. Anyway, so let me continue on. So continuing from the recording yesterday, my last recording where I was talking about, where I was decoding more of Jean Roberts murdering the Charles Manson victims. Something that somebody else pointed out was a couple of different things, okay? Arlene Brown. Remember when I decoded Arlene Brown? Okay, so Charles Manson, I've told you guys this before, I decoded this. I followed his entire trail. like finding out before he became Charles Manson. And I've got a whole podcast on it. And so I turned in Jean Roberts. She is the actual leader of Charles Manson. She always has been. Okay. So on the Charles Manson trail. So Charles Manson bought Spawn Ranch. I believe it was Spawn Ranch in California from an Oklahoma family, and the woman that he bought it from, her name was Arlene Brown. Now, take that, and then, I'm going to sneeze again. She keeps making me sneeze. Take that, and then also I want you to connect it to her murdering, and you got to ignore her controlling the lyrics of music. Say, for those of you that were listening in as my music is playing on my not on my podcast, on my playlist while I was driving back and forth, driving to work and driving home from work. Okay, she ice rapes the music. Some of the lyrics she directly controls. Sometimes she forces actual artists and musicians to change their lyrics, and they literally throw spoons, which they're saying, Jean is full of crap. We're doing this because she's making us do this. We don't have any choice. And then they say, please ignore Jean Roberts and her Manson occult and her freaking idiot freaking people. Anyway, so, remember when I told you about when I decoded O.J. Simpson and she killed O.J. Simpson? She framed him. She killed him. She robbed him. All right. Nicole Brown is who was murdered. So you have Arlene Brown and Nicole Brown. So that is what somebody else is pointing out to me. And this is probably another cross reduction. Also, oh my gosh, she keeps messing with me, making me sneeze. She's using Isomine to make me sneeze. Anyway, okay, remember when I told you also when I worked at Reese's and she posed herself? There's a couple times she posed herself in the store, like she superimposed herself in the store in CGI, then she stuck it in my brain while I was asleep at night. And one time she was dressed in all black. She was hiding her hair and she was dressed in all black. Remember that? Okay. So another time, like I told you, she stood there at the bottom of the pole. There's outside, I worked in the deli, and outside the deli is a long white pole. She stood there at the bottom of the pole, strips freaking naked. Her back is towards me, and she puts freaking whip marks on her back. And it pissed off freaking everybody. I mean, everybody. And she's like trying to be all sexual about it. Well, she is being sexual about it. She's trying to be all, they're controlling my speech. She's into S&M. What she's doing is she's acting like she's some spokesperson. She's being racist is what she's doing. She did something very, 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 very bad to African Americans on top of everything else she's done to African Americans. She did something very bad. And she was mocking it and putting it in my face, and it pissed me off. In my brain, I ripped all the skin off her back and then replaced all her skin back the way that it's supposed to be. And then I put her clothes or her jacket or whatever the hell back on her and told her, keep your clothes on, Jean. Another thing she did was claim that the woman that I saw in my brain, okay, I saw a woman in my brain when I lived in Oklahoma City. She was starving to death. I told you this in a previous podcast. She was starving to death. She was in an Abajo. She was underground. It was a dirt floor. It was dirt walls. There were chains coming out of the wall. She was skinny. She was Caucasian. And there were chains attached to her. And she was like flailing. And I was freaking out. Jean swears up and down that woman is Nicole Brown. It's because she killed O.J. Simpson. She framed O.J. Simpson for murdering her, and she's trying to racket the crime, is what she's doing. Now, who that woman is, I've already told you. I don't know who that woman is. I was told, since that's been in my brain, since she put that in my brain, and I made a report, I was told that they found out where that woman is, and she's likely rescued by now. There's no way that she could possibly still be there. And this goes along with all the other blonde women that she had. Remember I told you how she made a vignette of, and she was so freaking happy. That's when I lived in Oklahoma City. She's like, da 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 da. A vignette of blonde women sitting inside, and I turned her in for this. I made a sketch up and took it to Tulsa police when I turned Gene Roberts in. But it was in a cave inlet, and it was like no taller. The inlet and the wall of the cave was like no taller than a doorknob. So what is that, like 3 feet maybe? Maybe a little bit higher than 3 feet. And there was a little teeny tiny desk in it, and there were blonde women sitting there putting together, assembling biodegradable weapons, crying and scared out of their mind. And she put this video together, and she's like, la da 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 da, I'm going to make a montage. And then she sticks this whole montage in my brain. Like, you have time to make an effing montage? But yet you're a hero, Gene Roberts? You're the perp. You're the one that's doing this. You committed these crimes. So anyway, it's blonde women. She was bragging about what she got away with all these years. It's blonde women over time. So one woman overlays or blends into another. And I swear to God, it's like the past 50, 60 years. Like, you can see the different looks of the different women. It's a modernization over time. All doing the same thing. Then when she put that in my brain, she sticks stuff in my brain, and then she says, in other instances, she sticks stuff in my brain. And then she's like, look what I did, and I'll get away with it. She literally tells me, I'll get away with it. That's what she says to me. So in this instance is basically what she was saying too, but she was just so proud of her montage. So after she puts it in my brain, then after that she starts out all her hype out and all her hyperbole and all that with her ooh-ah people. And she goes, that's in Cuba, the country of Cuba. And people in my brain were like trying to assess like what's like, they have connections, and they're like, that is not in Cuba. And she's like, oh, it's in Cuba. Then people came on in my brain. They said, that's not in Cuba, that's in Arizona. And then later on, I found out about Auckland, and then everybody went back to the same thing. It's probably Auckland is where that woman, or not that woman, where those women are at. That woman also is probably in Auckland too. She could be at any of the Abajos in the Southwest. Anyway, so those women, that's probably in Auckland. That's not in Cuba. Jean is trying to start a war, or trying to piss people off in Cuba is what she's trying to do. She thinks she's being fucking funny. And then everybody's like, well, she just told on herself. Because why would she make a montage, number one? And why would she intentionally blame Cuba? And then later on, after I live in Oklahoma City and I'm here, she rolls out her syrup con lie, where she says everything that's happening underground is her ass kind of shit. Which, you know what I'm talking about. What does she sell? What does she traffic? And she's just going to be the savior of it all. Oh, you just happen to know all this is going on, but you're going to be the savior of it all. Okay, that sounds correct. So what people said, that does happen in Abajos underground. But there's all kinds of everything underground. There's entire civilization underground. There's all kinds of every different kind of thing going on underground. So that's what she was making a reference to. And then she's going to do her winky at Cuba. And she's like, see, I got you covered. So she's like messing with Cuba. And then I knew instantly, because I had already decoded what she did to Cuba. She's messing with them. She's Charles Manson. So Gene Roberts, again, needs to go to jail. But anyway, so another thing that somebody pointed out also is people were talking about, and I want to clarify, I wasn't saying African Americans with the garden, because hoe is like known like African American slang. Everybody says it. Everybody says hoe. Okay. She uses lion spray to create slang, as you guys know. Okay. She probably formed the lion spray slang from that. Just like she formed the phrase, because she is the one that committed those murders. Remember I told you, she hid in the closet during the Charles Manson murders, and she made a deal with the people, like this was already pre-planned before they went in to kill. Like, you take the fall and I'll get you later. She hid in the freaking closet. So now we have present day, we've got things like walk-in closets. Also, the phrase, don't ask, don't tell, in the military. Remember when that came out? Okay, she came up with that phrase. I decoded a full page on it. That came from her all the way back to the phrase hiding in the closet. She hid in the closet. She's Charles Manson. She keeps controlling and manipulating Washington with ice. And she manipulates and controls everyone with ice. I told you her occult is huge. Anyway, so back to the garden. Okay, with the gloves and all of that. Okay, so you're talking about there's the activity that has to do with the garden in the Charles Manson murders directly. And then fast forward to Gene Roberts framing O.J. Simpson and killing and/or kidnapping Nicole Brown Simpson. Okay, so there's garden activity, there's outdoor activity. Okay, so in regards to that, another thing is when I was decoding the Charles Manson women that went to jail for committing those crimes, the women that everybody knows about, when I was decoding their names, remember I told you they have a lot of aliases. Gene has way more aliases than they do, but they have a lot of aliases. Okay, so when I lived in Oklahoma City, I decoded their names, and what I decoded out of it was her pre-planning future cyber biological warfare, which we've been experiencing it since 1999, but it's come on in like layers, and then heavy starting in 2021. You're gonna have to go through all my podcasts to go through everything, and then when I was in Oklahoma City, that was 2020. It was 4 years ago, so it was 2022. And then since then, and it's going to get worse, okay? And I have made several podcasts, and I turned her in for cyber bioterrorism, okay? So one of the things, so in their aliases, they're bragging about different diseases, okay? It's all a part of the Revelations plot. They're literally trying to steal Revelations and trying to bring upon their own apocalypse, okay? So in the Bible talks about the signs of Revelations, and I decoded in that list too, going through all of it, seeing what Gene did and seeing what the Holy Bible says. And one of this is diseases, okay? So I decoded a lot around diseases, some around my childhood. Remember I told you with the frogs at Lake Powell? Okay, so all the stuff that I've told you in my podcast, decoding. So they're bragging about different kinds of diseases with their names that they're going to emit into the universe, okay? So, which all leads and compounds until the world is completely plagued. They want like a massive kill off of people. Now, some of these diseases they planted in the soil. So, going through the O.J. Simpson, so the O.J. Simpson, and then also the Charles Manson murders, the gardening. Okay, so that's probably also a sign of future present diseases that Gene Roberts and her Manson occult, such as planting them in the soil, planting diseases in the soil. Also burying knives. See my podcast on our future terror plot of burying knives. I've got several podcasts on it. Again, she's using me as a theme. It goes to my childhood with her burying knives in the ground everywhere. And then, as you know, one of the planes she crashed was in Pennsylvania, Shanksville, Pennsylvania. So it's like one crime leading to the next crime. So anyway, so something to point out also in the word knives. Okay, so knives has Ivanhoe in it. But also planting in the soil, that would be horticulture. And someone said this could also be snake fangs. Her also making references to snake fangs. Okay, because inside the word knives is eye. And then you have eye teeth. Okay, so you're going to have to see all my podcasts on all snake terrorism. So it's probably a reference there also of snake terrorism. So, also another thing that she did, and I'm referring to my past two, podcasts, and today, oh my God, she and her little freaking opposite Get Fresh crew, white people, get in my brain. I'm trying to work, and she's trying to force inject her lies into my brain. And she does that because she knows I'm getting ready to make another report and I'm getting ready to bust her. So she's trying to establish that she's got some control over me to someone. I don't know who she's giving this fantasy lie to. I don't know who she's trying to pull this crap to. But she just wants to reinforce our lies. We get to steal this from Christina. No, you're lying. You've been outed. You've been turned in. I'll continue turning you in. This podcast is all about turning you in until you're arrested. Now, anyway, as I was saying, Oingo Boingo. Another thing that she did. Okay, so the main theme song, or the main song that goes to the movie Weird Science, is called Weird Science. And it's by a mod group called Oingo Boingo. Notice the word boing. Bounce. So anyway, I want to point out those two. Okay, so I'm going to end this recording, and then I'm going to do another recording, and it's going to be a continuation of this recording.